Good morning, everybody. Welcome to this meeting of the ESPO Management Committee. This meeting is being broadcast live on YouTube and recorded, so it will also be available for viewing after the meeting. Can I please ask all members and officers to have their microphones on mute until they wish or are invited to speak. I need to let you know that we're not expecting a fire alarm today, so if one does sound, please use the stairs to leave the building and convene on the field opposite the visitors' car park. Please follow the Democratic Services officer. We have received apologies from Councillor Hakes from Lincolnshire, Councillors Ferguson and Shayler from Cambridgeshire, Councillor Bensley from Norfolk, and Councillor Poland will be late as he's attending another meeting here today. I've been advised, I don't see him yet, that Councillor Baxter Payne will be joining us online. Okay, and on to the first item, the minutes of our previous meeting held on the 18th of September, which is pages 3 to 8 of our pack. Do I have a seconder for those meetings? Councillor Wright, thank you. I've not been notified of any urgent items, so we'll move on to declarations of interest. Are there any declarations? No, thank you very much. Item number 4 is items referred by the Finance and Audit Subcommittee. The following items have been referred by the subcommittee for consideration by this committee. Item 5. 2023-2024 financial statement and annual governance statement. Item 6, the contract procedure rules update. Item 7, review and revision of the constitution of the management committee. From those, our first item is the 2023-24 financial statements and annual governance statement. Can I ask Gary to introduce this item, which is pages 9 to 58 of our agenda pack? Gary.
Okay, thank you, Chair. This report sets out the 23-24 financial statements and the 23-24 annual governance statement. These items were reviewed at the Finance and Audit Committee earlier today, and the Management Committee is being asked to approve the annual governance statements and the 23-24 statements. In addition to that, the Management Committee is also asked to approve the dividend pool of 6.1 million for payment in December as well. The results of the external audit were also reviewed and recommended for approval by the Finance and Audit Subcommittee earlier today as well. The external audit resulted in a clean audit opinion and didn't identify any significant control weaknesses. ESPO's financial position continues to remain healthy with net current assets of 21.1 million as at 31st of March 2024, which allows for the dividend, the continued build of reserves for future investment and supports that working capital ongoing working capital needs of the business. In terms of the dividend, so each year ESPO pays a distribution back to committee members from the surplus it generates, and this is a really valuable contribution back towards public services across the member areas. The dividend of 6.1 million is proposed, which is based on the management account results. The statutory adjustments included in the financial accounts do not impact the value of the dividend paid. ESPO expects to be able to make payment to individual members in December 2024 dividend payment. Moving on to the AGS. So the AGS, the annual governance statements, similar to the external audit, ESPO is not required to publish an annual governance statement, but it really is a internal and external effective review of the effectiveness of ESPO's governance arrangements. And through part of that annual governance statement, there's a self-assessment survey which was conducted that was positive about ESPO's overall financial management and corporate governance arrangements. So no individual question identified any key weaknesses, and no significant governance concerns were raised either. So the AGS was reviewed by a senior management group, and no areas of significant concern have been identified either. The annual governance statement has also been recommended for approval at the Finance and Audit Committee earlier today. So the Management Committee is asked to approve the annual governance statements, the financial statements, and the dividend pool of 6.1 million. I'm happy to take any questions.
Thank you, Gary. Does anyone have any comments or questions? Councillor Rawlins.
And to note at this committee, which was yeah, part of the last year was the although not a huge amount of it was rebate income because of the movement from encouraging. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else? In which case, I move that we approve A, the 2023-24 annual governance statement, B, the 2023-24 financial statements, and C, the dividend pool of £6.1 million to be paid out in December 2024. Do I have a seconder? Thank you very much, everyone. On to item number 6, which is the contract procedure rules update. These are set out on pages 59 to 164 of the agenda pack. Maurice, would you like to introduce this?
I'll take the report.
You'll take
Chair.
it. Okay.
Yeah. So just for members, this is an item that's been referred from the Finance and Audit Subcommittee. Purpose of the report is to seek approval for the revised rules, which I say has been through Finance and Audit Committee, and also to seek delegation for future revisions to finance to the CPRs to the Finance and Audit Committee, because the delay in the procurement regs has meant we need to do a future revision before this committee meeting. So they're the two things we're seeking to achieve. I think the key point is ESPO works jointly with Leicestershire County Council on the CPRs, and as Leicestershire County Council have amended them, then obviously for good governance, ESPO also needs to amend its rules. And also the other key point here is the delay in the Procurement Act. So members be aware that there's new procurement rules coming. There's been a delay in the Procurement Act, and therefore means we needed to do an additional revision to these rules. The amendments to the contract procedure rules are contained in Appendix A. And a final point just from the report is that members to be aware that therefore we'll have two sets of contract procedure rules operating alongside each other. One will govern procurements that start before the Procurement Act comes into force in February, and one set of rules for the Procurement Act after February. So in terms of formal recommendations, it's recommended that the Management Committee approves the proposed amendments to the contract procedure rules, and they also delegates authority to the Finance and Audit Subcommittee to approve such changes are required by the CPR before 24th of February 2025, which will be in compliance with the Procurement Act.
Thank you, Christian. Do we have any questions for Christian? Councillor Hogg.
Just a question on the kind of the Procurement Act. Do we foresee there being major changes to these rules, or is it just going to be a light touch change?
I think Maurice is our procurement director, so I'll kind of invite him to answer that. I can chip in if he needs me to.
Yeah, I think the Procurement Act 2023 is quite a fundamental shift from the Procurement Act. So that will necessitate quite a fundamental on the government CPRs. But all the teams have been trained. There have been missions, 2 CPRs and 2 A teams side by side.
Maurice, any other questions?
Just chip in to just also say that the characteristics you're used to of public procurement remain. So open advertisement, different ways of tendering, transparency in how you score things, how you interact with the market. So that kind of central theme of public procurement you're used to does remain, albeit new rules.
Okay. Any other comments, questions, everybody, before I move to the recommendation? Nope. In that case, I move that we approve the proposed amendments to the contract procedure rules in line with Leicestershire County Council's rules detailed at appendices A, B and C of the report, and Delegate authority to the Finance and Audit Subcommittee to approve such changes as are required to be made to the contract procedure rules before 24th of February 2025 in compliance with the Procurement Act 2023. Do I have a second? Everyone agree? Thank you very much. Our next item is the review and revision of the constitution of the Management Committee. This is set out on pages 165 to 182 of the agenda pack. And over to Lauren for this.
Thank you, Chair, and good morning, members. This report presents a small number of minor amendments to the constitution of ESPO, and as with the previous report the Director has just taken us through, has already been subject to consideration by the Finance and Audit Subcommittee in the first part of its meeting, which took place last week. The amendments are summarised at paragraphs 4 and 5 and in Appendix 1. As members will see, the first amendment relates to the arrangements for the appointment of the Treasurer and Secretary to streamline these so that the Management Committee with confirming removal, replacement or amendment to that role rather than having to consider reports in relation to the appointment of personnel. The second two amendments are to look at how amendments to the Constitution generally are progressed and to provide for amendments to be considered by the Finance and Audit and to make recommendations to the Management Committee. The fourth amendment is to formalise the delegation to the Director in relation to pricing decisions and discounting. And the final amendment really reflects the report that the Director has just presented in relation to the contract procedures. Recommendation to the Management Committee is that those changes be approved. 8 of your.
Thank you, Lauren, for that. Does anyone have any comments, questions? In that case, I move that the proposed changes to the ESPO Constitution, summarised in Appendix 1 to this report, be approved. I have a second. Thank you very much. Item 8 is the Director's Progress Update. This can be found on pages 183 to 196 of the agenda pack. Christian Smith, will you introduce this?
Yeah, thank you, Chair. Happy to. So normal progress update in public session. The first section is the financials and the second section is operational performance and people aspects. I think Gary's going to take you through the financial summary and I'll pick up the rest of the report.
Thanks, Christian. So yeah, I'm just going to summarise the half-year year-to-date position to the end of September 2024 and articulate any items affecting the forecast to the end of the year. So as at the period 6 end position, we've achieved a surplus of 5.7 million, and that's 0.4 million ahead of budget, which is really pleasing at that point. What we have seen across the first 6 months is a real kind of contraction of the educational supplies market. We talked about this in the previous management committee, and that has continued with the educational supplies market also remaining really tight with fierce competition from competitors, very similar to last year. Despite the contraction, our trading activity has performed well, particularly in development areas where we've seen some growth in store sales, and that comes really through our competitive pricing offer and targeted growth strategies. Catalogue sales overall across the first 6 periods have largely been slightly down, reflecting the contraction in the market. So they're down 0.7% in total value on stores and down 8.1% in sales value on directs. The total sales to September 2024 were 52.5 million, and this was 1.2 million behind budget, but in line with last year. So this reflects that overall contraction of the market, which we've managed to partly offset with that growth into development areas and additional volume growth through the competitive pricing offer. So although sales value is down, budgeted margin levels have largely been achieved so far. The gross profit margin on stores is 28.8%, which is very slightly behind budget. And last year, our margin really benefited from the in-year supplier cost price reductions, and we haven't seen any of that this year. Direct's margin is averaged out at 19.3%. So that's 2.9% above budget, and that's really positive, but mainly driven from the mix of the products sold. Moving on to rebate income, this is also doing really well, and that really benefiting partly from inflation, but also from organic growth and continuous improvements in our customer experience process and customer experience in the sign-up process. So rebate income, we've delivered 6.8 million so far at the period 6 position. That's 0.3 million ahead of last year, which is really pleasing as well. So in line with budget at this stage, we may see some variations on rebate income through the rest of the year associated with billing timing differences, but we do remain on target to deliver 13.2 million of rebate income in 24-25. Expenditure spend is 14.2 million year to date, which is 0.6 million better than budget. That's largely associated with vacancy savings, phasing of the procurement, training and legal costs, and slightly lower level of fulfillment costs than anticipated in the budget. Expenditure is also a percentage. We also use expenditure as a percentage of sales as a key performance indicator to measure that cost control in relation to sales. This KPI was 27.1% and 0.6% better than budget. So it shows that costs are really being controlled well in relation to sales activity as well. So how does the forecast look for the rest of the year? So year to date, we also delivered a 5.7 million surplus, which is 0.4 million ahead of the budget. We're expecting to be around 6.5 million for the October month, with delivery of a further 0.7 million over the remaining 5 months, which are usually a much quieter trading period. So we are expecting to continue to achieve the full year budget of a 7.2 million surplus. There are some risks associated with that, obviously with the ongoing contraction and the significant budgetary pressures placed on schools. We do see some pressures there, and that particularly will continue to affect direct sales, particularly where schools continue to defer spending on furniture-based items. So competition also remains really fierce in the educational supplies market. But on the other hand, kind of rebate income is progressing really well as well this year. So in summary, really, volumes are up on our sort of top 500 competitively priced products, margin stable, and cost control remains really effective. And that's delivered a 0.4 million additional surplus across the first 6 months, and we remain on target to deliver the full year surplus target. Still a really challenging market, but we're pleased with where we're at this point in the year and the current price positioning.
Thanks, Gary. So I'll pick up the remainder of the report, and sort of there's some more insights in terms of the private session, in terms of the commercial aspects of trading. But in terms of this report, operational progress, you can see really strong performance, really pleased with operational progress, particularly over a busy time of our year. So you can see the scale of what we're doing, picking and dispatching 158,000 order lines, over 26,000 deliveries made with fleet and courier, warehouse pick rate on budget, and quality assurance number ahead of budget, with a really strong stock availability at 98.2% and a stock turn of just over 5.3. Customer service team, yet again, have put in a very strong performance, and you can see that through our service channels, the average wait time was 42 seconds, with 93% of calls answered. ESPO received 40 service ratings from FIFO, and the customer rating was 96%, which is obviously a very strong endorsement of what we've done over our customers. Got some information on facilities management, where we've undertaken our statutory inspections, and I would point members to the paragraph 32 that we're upgrading our canteen facilities at ESPO to make it a good place for our employees to work. One reported minor injury that's covered in the report, where somebody has sustained a minor injury to their ribs while moving parcels from a cage, and that was investigated as you'd expect, and additional training may be required. We also undertook our random drugs and alcohol testing on the 23rd of September, and I'm pleased to report to the committee that all donors returned negative results for both alcohol and drugs. ESPO leadership team, it says here, agreed to participate in the Healthy Workplace Scheme. That's not as bad as it sounds, chaps. We're not actually doing anything healthy, but we are sponsoring it. So that means that it's available to our staff in terms of, getting that MOT of cholesterol and, hydration levels, etc. ESPO is looking at a carbon reduction plan that was presented to our leadership team, and we've signed up to a net zero carbon reduction target at 2050 in line with Leicestershire County Council's own plans, and we will continue to engage with our consultants ACOM as part of our ambitious future to get ISO status. We then have some information about the IT team. Again, they are really important. They're obviously serving an internal customer primarily, but we rely on them to make sure we can all do our jobs. And they've reported, so they've dealt with over 600 inquiries with 100% satisfaction rating. Got a kind of feel for some of the things we're doing in IT, be that to improve our intranet site onto moving on to SharePoint, improve some of our management information by moving to something called Power BI. And as we've discussed at this committee before, we're moving our ERP system onto the cloud as software as a service, which I think most councils probably have done now, and we're catching up with that. There's a quick paragraph about the Grove Park site now having been completed, and members will be able to see firsthand the completed facility on their visit following management committee. Final section of the report is our staff information. We have 3 primary causes of sickness listed in the table. The top 3 health reasons have stayed the same as in Q1. The cases are not work related and are being managed with the support of our HR manager and HR business partner. Got a view of our sickness over the full year. Unfortunately, you can see a slight creep up in sickness from October 23, where it was at 7.49 days, to September 24, which is just over 8 days, with a corporate target of 7.5 days. So, you know, it's not out of control by any stretch, and you only really need, in a small organisation, somebody regrettably to be on long-term sick, and that has a sort of large impact on the numbers. And finally, there's some information on the Essential Development Management Programme that we're running for aspiring managers. It's really important for ESPO that we continue to grow our own talent, and we encourage people who want to go on and do management things that have the chance to do that, particularly in a hybrid working world where visibility is not quite perhaps what it was 10 years ago in terms of the people who aspire to get into management. So as ever, the recommendation is that Management Committee note the update provided and the actions and progress made since the last update provided in September 2020. Happy to take any questions.
Thank you, Christian and Gary. Members, Councillor Hogg.
Just a question relating to the new warehouse extension. Are you envisaging any impact to the pick rates? Is the first question, and then secondly, also, is that also going to help with stock availability, or is it just more financial where we will see the gain?
If I take the second one first, probably easier. Yeah, so it's absolutely great for availability. So to have the ability to stock up in our own warehouse and not have to do any trunking and be able to take stock in obviously helps us with our planning and our availability. So that's one of the sort of cornerstones of the business case. In terms of the pick rate, I don't believe it should impact our pick rate because you see the site, you've kind of got the bulk storage area, and we pick from the main warehouse. So the number of pick locations, you know, there might be an opportunity to increase those through movement within. But in terms of pick rate, I don't think it has a direct impact on pick rate. But I don't know if you'd agree with that, David. Yeah. So yeah.
My thinking was that if the new area was going to increase the distance travelled, was the point for pickers.
Yeah, so the new area is essentially bulk stock. That's what it's been designed to do. So it'll be trammed from the bulk store warehouse into the main warehouse. At some stage, we will be looking to find limited automation, a bit of mechanisation in the warehouse, but that's quite a way away. But this new warehouse will actually facilitate those kind of initiatives in the future. So we may see in the long run an opportunity to do something on not for a while.
Yeah, that's a really good question. You know, I talked about our leadership team, and the sort of consensus I think is that we will see a sort of easing of pressure as a result of money into the system. I think there's also that note of caution that there's always a time lag. So the schools were slow to stop spending once it got hard. So they might not be quick to re-spend when there's more money going into the system. I think there are pockets of opportunity. So if you think of things like breakfast clubs, that are going in, so there are pockets of opportunities which we'll target. And if you take a medium-term view, it's positive to see more money, but I don't see that like next year see a huge up.
Any other questions, Councillor Wright?
It's just a quick one, really, just out of interest on the Essential Development Programme for managers and aspiring managers. I mean, how will that work? Is that on an application basis, an invitation basis, and what sort of numbers are you targeting?
Yeah, thanks for the question. I mean, we buy services from Learning Development at Leicestershire County Council. I think both, the honest answer. So if you as a line manager had somebody you thought would benefit from it, of course, for your one-to-one that you'd have each month with them, you could raise it. Likewise, if someone has a burning desire and they raise it the other way round, I think it almost doesn't matter to us. What we're really keen on is making sure that we do grow our own talent and that we do encourage people, even in this new way of working, to want to lead and manage and want to be part of our future journey. So in terms of numbers, I don't think we've got a budget constraint in terms of funding them. We typically get, half a dozen people a hand up for that. It's quite involved, to be fair to people. They are doing some of that in their own time, but it's just part of our package, really, to kind of keep people engaged in ESPO.
Anyone else? If not, in that case, I move the update provided on the actions and progress made since the last update provided to members in September 2024 be noted. Do I have a seconder? Are we all agreed? Thank you very much. I confirm that the next meeting of the committee is scheduled to take place on the 19th of March 2025 at 10:30 a.m. Item 10 is urgent items. As I said previously, there are no urgent items. And item 11, exclusion of the press and public. With your permission, I move that in accordance with the Local Government Act 1972, the public be excluded from the meeting for the remaining items of business on the grounds that they involve the likely disclosure of exempt information. Do I have a seconder? Okay.